She walked into the jewelry store in faded jeans, so they kicked her out. What they didn't know, her husband owned the whole mall. The early sunlight danced across glittering vitrines as Opulence Jewelers prepared to open its doors. Soft instrumental music drifted through the hushed showroom, mingling with the faint scent of polished wood and precious metals. Each display case held its treasures under carefully angled lights. Diamond solitaires that flickered like distant stars, strands of pearls whispering of ocean depths, and colored gemstones that glowed with secret fires. Behind the counter, staff in crisp uniforms straightened velvet cushions, adjusted price tags, and checked inventory lists as though readying their wares for eager monarchs and moguls. The air was cool and expectant, the hush before the first delighted gasp. Take a second to subscribe. It really helps. Thanks. Now back to the story. In the back office, the store manager surveyed security camera feeds on a bank of sleek monitors. He saw his team aligned in perfect formation, ready to greet a parade of affluent clients. He practiced his polished smile before a tarnish-free mirror, counting on a seamless morning of sales. Nearby, a portrait of the founder hung above leather-bound ledgers, a reminder that Opulence Jewelers thrived on exclusivity and the promise of rare beauty. At exactly 9 o'clock, the front door's lock clicked open. A single bell tinkled, announcing the first customer of the day. Opinions varied on whether the newcomer was a discreet heiress or merely curious, but all agreed she did not fit the usual profile. She stepped into the showroom with an unassuming grace, dressed in faded jeans and a soft cotton blouse. Her hair was loosely tied, and her shoes bore the soft scuff of everyday life. Her gaze wandered slowly, drinking in the creations around her with the awe of someone unburdened by price tags. She paused before a case, showcasing an intricate necklace of rose gold and moonstones. Her fingertips hovered just above the glass as if she could feel its heartbeat. The young salesperson, polishing a nearby counter, stole a glance, then quickly averted his eyes. The manager, alerted by the camera feed, cleared his throat and summoned the polished welcome he reserved for high-spending regulars. The hush in the store shifted, anticipation tilting toward dismissiveness. In that charged moment, the store's promise of beauty and belonging took on a new weight. Outside, the rising sun warmed the city's skyline, unaware that within these walls, an unexpected tale of judgment and hidden power was about to begin. Her footsteps were soft against the marble floor as she moved between cases, her eyes bright with curiosity rather than calculation. She paused at a display of emerald earrings, their verdant glow catching the light in mesmerizing patterns. Gently, she leaned closer, as if hoping the stones might whisper their origin stories. The salesperson watching her shifted uncomfortably, adjusting his tie before clearing his throat. "Can I help you find something today?" he asked, voice polite but measured. She straightened and smiled, a warm, genuine curve of her lips that softened the opulence around her. "I'm just admiring these," she said. "They're exquisite." He nodded and dipped his head. "They are rare," he agreed. "Only a few sets exist." His tone suggested he expected her to walk away. Instead, she studied the earrings, fingertips brushing her chin in silent reverence. Walking slowly to another showcase, she lingered over a platinum bracelet studded with pink sapphires. She tilted her head, imagining it on her sister's wrist for an upcoming birthday. Her husband always entrusted her with gift selections. He said her thoughtfulness made every present unforgettable. Today, she wanted to choose something meaningful, not grand. A hush settled when a well-to-do couple entered, their laughter low but confident. Sales staff shifted focus, their practiced smiles returning as they greeted the newcomers. She stood to the side, watching the interplay of status and deference. Her heart tightened at the unspoken hierarchy that gilded the room nearly as much as the jewelry itself. She took a breath, steadying herself against a wave of self-doubt. She had faced dismissals before, little things that chipped away at self-worth. But she reminded herself of who she was beyond appearances, a champion for children in need, a woman whose quiet strength shaped lives. Hearing footsteps approach, she straightened and turned. The manager emerged, his smile rehearsed. "Shopping for a special occasion?" he inquired, voice dipping into business mode. Her chest lifted with a sudden resolve. "Yes," she replied gently. "My sister's birthday is next week. I'd love to find something she can cherish." He hesitated, eyes drifting from her calm gaze to the modest blouse she wore, then back to her face. In that instant, the difference between being seen and being judged settled heavily between them, an invisible barrier she was determined to cross. She watched as he slipped behind the counter, his tailored jacket brushing the glass as he approached. His smile didn't reach his eyes when he glanced at her blouse, the faint crease of condescension quick as a shutter click. He cleared his throat before speaking, voice smooth yet distant. "That piece is by a new designer. It's quite popular among our clientele." She followed his gaze to the sapphire pendant suspended in its velvet cradle. It was beautiful, deep blue like midnight seas, framed by paved diamonds that caught the light in million-point reflections. "It's stunning," she agreed, voice steady. "May I see it?" His brow flickered, and for a heartbeat, she thought he would refuse. Instead, he nodded once and lifted the glass lid with a practiced flick. The pendant hovered between them, suspended by a slender chain. She inhaled the faint scent of polished metal and leather, as though the necklace exhaled stories of celebration and devotion. His hand moved quickly to replace it, as if her admiration threatened its value. "If you're interested, appointments are recommended," he said, retracting the offering. His tone was carefully neutral, yet unmistakably dismissive. "We prefer to reserve our more exclusive pieces for clients who have scheduled private viewings." Her chest tightened. She opened her mouth to explain, cash purchase, gift for her sister, but the words lodged behind a wall of his assumption. She understood the unspoken message: "You do not belong here." She straightened, summoning courage she often called on in boardrooms and at charity events. "I would like an appointment," she said, voice calm. "I'm prepared to pay in full today." He paused, eyes flicking over her again, as though measuring some unseen deficit. Finally, he offered a brochure printed with black and gold elegance. "If you fill out this form, someone will contact you." He slid it across the counter, then turned back to greet the arriving VIP. Clutching the brochure, she watched the manager's retreating back and the deference he showered on the new arrivals. Her fingers tightened on the paper, crumpling its corner. In that quiet moment, her resolve crystallized. She would prove that worth was not woven in a fabric or stamped on price tags, but born in dignity and action, and she would not wait to be invited. Her pulse quickened as she opened the brochure, eyes scanning the elegant script that detailed appointment slots and concierge services. She felt a flush rise to her cheeks, part anticipation, part indignation. Setting it down, she moved toward the central display, where a necklace crowned with a single, perfect cashmere sapphire rested on a pedestal. The tag gleamed under the light: $425,000. Her breath caught at the price, not because it startled her. She knew the world she inhabited, but because of the sting it inflicted on her spirit. The figure seemed to mock her modest attire, echoing the manager's unspoken verdict. She imagined the appraisal, not of the gem's pedigree, but of her own place in this room. A small crowd of clients drifted nearby, their laughter a soft ripple that contrasted with the jewel's heavy value. A guest in a cashmere coat leaned in to admire the sapphire and whispered to his companion, "$500,000 for a necklace. That's quaint," he said with a chuckle. She caught only his tone. His partner's face remained polite but blank, unreadable. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, tracing the contour of the pendant without touching it. In that moment, she saw more than luxury. She saw lives transformed by that money, the microscopes and wheelchairs it could buy for children who would never step into this place. The sapphire's brilliance dimmed beside that vision. Footsteps approached. A polished clerk stepped forward and tapped the glass. "That piece is reserved for VIP clients," he announced, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret she should already know. If you're truly serious, you'll need to schedule a consultation. His words were courteous but conclusive. She drew back, chest tightening with the weight of his dismissal. She swallowed, aware of her heartbeat thudding in her ears. She could feel the eyes of the onlookers, measuring, judging. Yet beneath the humiliation, a quiet defiance kindled within her. As the clerk turned away, she touched the tag lightly, then stepped back. No words came. She didn't need to speak. The sapphire's price tag had done its work, searing an indictment into her pride. But rather than shrink, she straightened her shoulders. She would show them that true value was measured not in carats or cost, but in character, and that lesson was about to be taught. The store manager appeared beside her, as if summoned by her silence. His polished shoes clicked against the marble, and he folded his arms, regarding her with a practiced scrutiny. "Miss Collins," he began, using her name for the first time, as though to remind her this was a courtesy. "I must be frank. Our policy requires appointments for high-value pieces." He paused, voice steady. "If you'd like to proceed, you'll need to leave now and return with a scheduled time, along with proof of funds and proper attire." She met his gaze, unflinching. "I understand the policy," she replied, voice calm. "But I've already expressed my intent. I'm prepared to pay today." He sighed, as though indulging a child's stubborn plea. "Our clientele expects discretion and formality. This store maintains an atmosphere of exclusivity. I cannot, in good conscience, allow you to handle these pieces without the proper protocol." Her heart thudded, not from fear, but from righteous anger. She drew in a measured breath, recalling the countless children she'd helped, the advocates she'd inspired. "I don't need to blend in," she said softly. "I only need to be treated with respect." His jaw tightened. "Respect is earned. Once you've adhered to our standards, we'll welcome you." He tapped the glass case. "Until then, I must ask that you leave." A hush fell over the showroom as onlookers paused in their browsing, sensing the confrontation. The polished clerk who had escorted her earlier hovered nearby, casting uneasy glances. She folded her hands in front of her, keeping her composure. "Very well," she said, voice steady but carrying an edge of steel. "I'll leave, only because you've asked. But know this, I'll be back." He inclined his head, impressed despite himself. "I'll look forward to it," he said, though his tone lacked warmth. She turned toward the door, her stride purposeful. Each step echoed in the silent room, a quiet declaration that dignity couldn't be confined by dress codes or price tags. Before pushing open the glass doors, she paused and glanced back. In that instant, she conveyed a challenge. That power belonged not to those who labeled her, but to the principles she upheld. Then she stepped into the sunlight, the manager's ultimatum trailing behind her like a gauntlet thrown. Sunlight washed over her as she slipped through the glass doors. The chime of the bell, a final punctuation to the manager's decree. Outside, the city's hum felt both comforting and defiant. She paused on the polished stone threshold, smoothing the front of her blouse, then offered a small, courteous nod to a passerby who'd paused to stare at the tense scene inside. Drawing in a steadying breath, she raised her phone and dialed her husband. His calm voice answered on the second ring. "Everything all right?" he asked softly. She glanced back at the windowed facade, reading the manager's rigid posture through the glass. "I've been politely asked to return by appointment," she said, keeping her tone light. "But I'm making progress." A wry smile curved her lips. "I've scheduled a consultation. For tomorrow." He laughed, gentle and amused. "Excellent work," he said. "I'll confirm the details and send you the confirmation." His reassurance wrapped around her like a warm shawl. "Is there anything else you need?" "Just a reminder," she replied, "that no one gets to define my worth." She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the words settle. "Thank you for always seeing me." After ending the call, she tucked her phone away and turned toward the street. As she walked, she tapped into her practiced poise, an ease she'd refined through years of public appearances and personal trials. Her steps were measured but unhurried, each one reclaiming the confidence the showroom's walls had tried to erode. A journalist from a local lifestyle blog, who'd witnessed the exchange from across the street, approached with a sympathetic smile and a recording pen. She paused, considering her options. Then she offered a sincere courtesy. "Miss Collins, would you care for comment?" She inclined her head, meeting the reporter's eyes. "Opulence is not measured by glittering cases," she said. "It's found in the respect we afford one another." The reporter's pen fluttered across her notebook as she spoke, capturing every syllable. With that, she continued down the boulevard, the morning light guiding her steps. In her mind, the upcoming appointment was not a concession, but an opportunity, a stage set for a lesson in dignity that no price tag could buy. And as she disappeared into the city's pulse, her silver tongue had already begun crafting the next chapter of her story. Her heels clicked against the pavement as she navigated the bustling streets, the city's energy pulsing around her. Between meetings at the foundation and coordinating volunteers, she slipped in a moment to finalize details for tomorrow's appointment. Finding a quiet cafe with a window overlooking a tree-lined avenue, she settled at a small table and keyed her phone. She dialed her husband's office number, navigating the prompts with practiced ease. On the fifth ring, his assistant answered. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Collins. Mr. Collins is in a board meeting, but can take a quick message." She smiled, picturing Alexander's calm focus. "Please tell him I've secured the 9:30 slot at Opulence Jewelers tomorrow and that I'll arrive 10 minutes early. Also, confirm that the Ferrari is out of the shop so I could drive myself. No need to make a fuss." There was a brief pause, then a polite, "Certainly, I'll relay the message." Before she could hang up, Alexander's voice came on the line, low and warm. "I heard you already have the appointment. You're amazing." She laughed softly, stirring her tea. "It wasn't difficult. They realize I won't be dismissed twice." His chuckle was reassuring. "Do you need me to clear more of your schedule? I can shift a meeting." She glanced at her watch, weighing her day's obligations. "No, I'm good. Just wish me luck." "I always do," he said, then added thoughtfully, "I've spoken with the mall's legal team about potential acquisition opportunities. Just in case this becomes more than a consultation." Her breath caught, heart fluttering at the hint of his intervention. Yet she maintained her composure. "Thank you," she said simply. "But let's see how tomorrow goes." He paused, then spoke with gentle certainty. "I trust you." She sat back, letting his faith settle around her. "I won't let you down." After ending the call, she closed her eyes for a moment, the aroma of fresh coffee grounding her. Around her, patrons chatted or tapped on laptops, unaware of the subtle power play unfolding. She straightened, leaving a tip and gathering her things. The call across the city had done more than confirm an appointment. It had fortified her resolve. With each step toward tomorrow, she was ready not just to shop, but to rewrite the rules they tried to impose. Dappled light filtered through the tall oaks lining the driveway as she pulled into the Collins estate, its wrought iron gates parting silently at her approach. Beyond lay manicured lawns and gardens filled with lavender and jasmine, an oasis of calm far from the city's clamor. The main house rose ahead in pale stone, its columns and arched windows hinting at centuries of understated grandeur. She parked near the porte-cochere and stepped onto the flagstones, noting the scent of honeysuckle carried on a gentle breeze. A discreetly clad attendant greeted her by name, taking her keys and offering to park her car. She smiled, comfortable in the seamless service she rarely needed to acknowledge. Inside, the foyer's high ceilings displayed family portraits, ancestors in rich fabrics, gazing down with solemn pride. Her footsteps echoed along the corridor leading to Alexander's private study. The door opened before she reached it. He stood behind an oak desk strewn with reports and architectural drawings, a rare sight to find him amid such details. He closed a folder and crossed the room, pulling her into a warm embrace. "I thought you might need a moment of calm before tomorrow," he murmured. She inhaled the familiar scent of his cologne, cedarwood and citrus, and let herself relax. "You always know exactly what I need," she replied. He stepped back, motioning toward the large windows overlooking a koi pond. "I wanted to show you something," he said. He tapped a few keys, and a hidden panel slid open in the wall, revealing a touchscreen display. Schematics of the nearby Willowbrook Mall appeared, a sprawling complex of retail wings, skylit atriums, and parking structures. I've been studying its potential, he explained. The architecture could be adapted for a learning center and community hub. And I noticed Opulence Jewelers occupies a prime position in the main concourse. She leaned forward, fingers tracing the digital outline of the store's footprint. You think there's a future beyond retail? He nodded. Imagine workshops for artisans, galleries for young designers, spaces where children from the foundation can explore creativity. It's underutilized, ripe for transformation. Her mind raced, picturing the bright faces of the children as they discovered jewelry making or design classes in those polished halls. It would change everything. He smiled, eyes shining with shared purpose. Tomorrow's appointment is just the beginning. I've authorized preliminary talks for acquisition, quietly, so we can negotiate from a position of empathy rather than power. She placed her hand over his. Thank you for trusting my vision. He squeezed her fingers. You inspire me every day. Let's bring new life to that space, starting with that consultation. In the stillness of the study, amid family legacies and future plans, their partnership felt like the key to unlocking a different kind of opulence. One measured not in carats, but in community and possibility. He stood at the edge of the balcony, watching the sun dip behind the distant skyline as dusk settled over the estate. The cooling air carried the scent of night-blooming jasmine, mingling with the soft hum of the city below. In that hour of transition, Alexander Collins felt the weight of both legacy and responsibility. Inside the study, financial reports and legal briefs lay strewn across the desk. He reviewed projections for the mall acquisition one more time. The numbers confirmed his instincts. This wasn't just a transaction. It was an opportunity to redefine value. But alliances would need careful handling. Far too many deals began with power and ended in resentment. He closed his eyes, recalling Maggie's resolve as she walked from the showroom, her dignity intact despite condescension. That moment crystallized his purpose. He vowed that any acquisition would honor not only his wife's vision, but the community's needs. This would be a different kind of purchase, one that uplifted rather than imposed. He tapped his phone, sending a secure message to his head of acquisitions. Proceed with discreet negotiations. Emphasize community partnership. Meet minimal resistance. He paused before hitting send, knowing that leverage would be his, but compassion would guide him. Leaving the study, he found Maggie in the gallery, examining a photograph from their early years. Her in a simple dress, handing a scholarship check to a young student. The image captured her unwavering belief in people over prestige. He slid an arm around her shoulders. Tomorrow is the start, he said softly. She leaned into him. They won't see it coming, she replied, voice steady. He kissed her temple. Good. Let them underestimate us. Together, they reviewed their plan, a phased approach to purchasing mall shares, securing key stakeholder support, and unveiling a vision for adaptive reuse, art studios, social enterprises, and an expanded foundation center. Each element reflected a balance of profit and purpose. As night fully descended, he sent one final instruction. Prepare goodwill outreach, local councils, community groups. We build trust before contracts are signed. Maggie turned to him, admiration in her eyes. You're remarkable, she said. He smiled, humility in his gaze. I learned from the best. In that moment, his resolve was clear, to harness his fortune not for ostentation, but for enduring impact. The mall would become more than a shopping center. It would stand as a testament to the power of respect, partnership, and a simple woman's unwavering worth. She arrived at the mall before its official opening, slipping past the revolving doors under the soft glow of early lights. Security guards gave her polite nods as she approached the central directory, tablet in hand. Today's mission: observe foot traffic patterns, tenant mix, and the subtle choreography of shoppers. Her first stop was the food court. Long rows of empty tables gleamed under fluorescent bulbs. She recorded seating occupancy statistics, noting which eateries drew staff overs from nearby offices and which sat half empty. A smoothie bar with a healthy menu pulsed with morning customers. An opportunity for her foundation's nutrition workshops, perhaps. Next, she strolled down the fashion wing, cataloging storefronts. Luxury boutiques clustered at one end, their window displays staging seasonal trends. Beyond them, mid-range brands and fast fashion outlets formed a corridor where value met variety. She photographed signage, jotted rental rates posted in leasing office flyers, and sketched rough maps of anchor store locations. Stopping at a children's play area, she watched parents wrangle toddlers amid colorful plastic structures. She imagined adaptive play equipment designed by her foundation for children with sensory needs. A custodian swept nearby, humming to himself, a reminder that every role supported the mall's ecosystem. She caught his eye and offered a warm smile. He returned it, surprised but appreciative. Her final leg led to the leasing office, where she checked public records on vacancies. She discreetly paid the kiosk fee for a printout detailing available spaces and lease expiration dates. Balancing a latte in one hand, she compared vacancy percentages against foot traffic data, calculating potential for pop-up exhibit spaces. A mall manager, surprised to see her so early, stepped out to greet her. He offered a tour, though clearly unsure of her purpose. She accepted graciously, steering the conversation toward community events hosted in the atrium. He admitted bookings were sparse and funding limited. She nodded thoughtfully, mentally slotting in fundraising galas and youth art showcases. By mid-morning, her tablet was filled with annotated maps, spreadsheets, and photographs. She stood in the central atrium, its glass ceilings soaring overhead, and imagined the space alive with workshops, performances, and open-air markets. Packing up, she felt a thrill of possibility. The data she gathered would shape their acquisition strategy, ensuring negotiations honored both financial prudence and community enrichment. Tomorrow's consultation would be more than a jewelry appointment. It would mark the first step toward transforming these empty corridors into corridors of opportunity. Sunlight filtered through the skylights, illuminating floor tiles etched with subtle patterns that guided shoppers along the concourse. Amid this crafted beauty lay hidden potential, a series of underused niches waiting to be reimagined. As she wandered, she noticed small gathering spots beneath decorative planters and alcoves shadowed by closed storefronts. These unclaimed areas whispered of community gatherings, pop-up markets for local artisans, story hours for children, or maker stations where craftsmanship could flourish. She paused at a curved bench where a few elderly visitors rested, eyes drifting toward a large television screen playing advertisements. The screen's placement felt imposed, more commercial than communal. Turning to her tablet, she sketched a quick redesign, replaced the ads with rotating exhibits of student art, paired with QR codes linking to the foundation's programs. She tapped notes, engaged local schools, monthly rotating shows. Further down, a forgotten corridor led to a sunlit atrium. The marble floor was pristine but empty. She pictured yoga classes at dawn, adaptive dance sessions for teens with disabilities, and acoustic concerts by community musicians. The space's grand scale demanded purpose beyond commerce. She surveyed the low benches and thought, modular seating that could be rearranged for performances, lectures, or even pop-up clinics for health screenings, an extension of her foundation's outreach. Passing the food court again, she revisited that smoothie bar pulsing with activity. Its menu board advertised only standard offerings. She noted a suggestion: partner with local nutritionists for healthy living demos. Tapping the screen, she drafted an email to the bar's owner, envisioning collaborative events that would draw new visitors and support wellness. Another thread weaving commerce and community. She ended at a small garden courtyard tucked behind a jewelry kiosk. Ivy trailed along wrought iron trellises, vines heavy with blossoms. She imagined guided meditation sessions among the blooms, sensory gardens for children with autism, and workshops on sustainable gardening, touchstones for mindfulness in a retail setting. Reviewing her tablet, she saw more than a shopping center. She saw a living tapestry of possibilities, spaces ready to host stories, services, and connections. Tomorrow's appointment with Opulence Jewelers was but one entry in this broader vision. The mall's hidden value lay not in vacancy statistics or lease terms, but in the lives it could touch. And she was determined to bring that vision to life. She convened a strategy session in the estate's glass-walled conference room, sunlight dancing on the polished oak table. Around her sat trusted advisors, the head of legal, the acquisition specialist, and the foundation's director of community relations, each prepared with dossiers on key mall stakeholders, major tenants, property managers, and local council representatives. She began by outlining the dual objectives: secure controlling interest in the mall while embedding community-focused programming. With the legal head, she reviewed share distributions and voting rights, pinpointing which investors could be approached first for discrete buyouts. Their notes marked high-value targets: the pension fund owning 15% and a private equity firm with leases for anchor stores. Turning to the acquisition specialist, she examined timing and pricing models. He projected a phased purchase, beginning with minority stakes to build rapport, then moving to majority control once supportive partners were on board. She highlighted the importance of confidentiality to prevent price inflation. "We'll need a cloak of neutrality," she said. "Scripts for our intermediaries that emphasize interest in long-term stability, not opportunistic takeovers." The community relations director shared findings from local surveys. Residents wanted more cultural events and youth programs, but felt disconnected from the mall's corporate identity. She suggested crafting a mission statement for Willowbrook Commons that blended retail with education and outreach. They drafted language: a hub where commerce meets community, empowering creativity and connection. The conversation shifted to financing. Her husband's private trust offered low-interest loans tied to social impact metrics. She proposed performance-based incentives for tenants who hosted foundation-led events, such as rent reductions for space used weekly by nonprofit initiatives. The team mapped out incentives: pop-up art galleries, STEM workshops, and adaptive sports demos. By afternoon, their plan coalesced into a 3-phase roadmap: whisper campaign and preliminary share purchases in weeks 1 to 3, stakeholder alignment and small-scale pilot events in weeks 4 to 6, and full control negotiations in weeks 7 to 10, culminating in a public unveiling of the mall's new identity. As the session ended, she felt the thrill of possibility. They had devised more than a buyout. They had charted a transformation. Shopping corridors would give way to learning corridors, empty storefronts to vibrant incubators. With strategy in place, tomorrow's jewelry appointment would be both a statement of personal resolve and the first domino in a larger design. And she knew that when the world watched Opulence Jewelers, no one would suspect the quiet revolution unfolding beyond its glass doors. The next morning, the boardroom at Willowbrook Mall sat hushed under fluorescent lights as the private equity firm's partners gathered around the polished table. She entered alongside her husband, both carrying leather portfolios that bespoke purpose. Murmurs rippled through the room as she took a seat beside Alexander, her simple blouse contrasting against the sharp suits around her. The lead partner cleared his throat. "We appreciate your interest in our shares," he began, "but we've received unsolicited offers at higher multiples." His gaze flicked to her before settling on the array of documents she'd prepared. "Why should we consider yours?" She leaned forward, exuding calm confidence. "Because this is not merely an investment in real estate. It's an investment in community resilience." She clicked a remote, and the screen lit up with photos of empty corridors transformed by pop-up workshops and smiling children learning jewelry design. These metrics show increased foot traffic and revenue when social programs are integrated into retail spaces. The partners exchanged skeptical looks. Alexander followed with financial projections, demonstrating modest rental yield adjustments offset by projected gains from enhanced tenant loyalty and public goodwill. He framed the trust's low-interest loan as a support mechanism, not a takeover tactic. "Our goal is sustainable value," he said, "not just quarterly returns." A senior partner folded his arms. "Community engagement is noble, but malls thrive on consumer demand. How do you guarantee profitability? She anticipated the question. Her research had shown that malls with programming see a 15% bump in repeat visits. She cited case studies, then introduced letters from the city council expressing support for adaptive reuse initiatives. We have municipal backing and a clear path to funding pilot events. Tension crackled as they digested the data. The room's power dynamics shifted subtly. Her dignity and thorough preparation had punctured the usual bravado. After a measured pause, the senior partner nodded. Your approach is unconventional, but compelling. He tapped his pen. We're willing to negotiate a partial sale contingent on your community program rollout within 60 days. She exchanged a glance with Alexander, whose reassuring smile mirrored her own. We accept, she said, voice steady. Let's begin. As they shook hands, the room exhaled. The boardroom's shockwaves radiated not from her wealth, but from the quiet conviction that had turned skepticism into partnership. Outside those doors, an entire mall was about to be reborn. By midnight, the legal team's conference room glowed under task lamps as signatures were gathered on a stack of contracts. Outside, a cloudless sky stretched over the mall's rooftop, where security cameras scanned empty parking lots and silent entrances. Inside, her husband's private counsel moved swiftly, orchestrating wire transfers and title changes. She stood beside Alexander, watching as the final page was initialed. The hum of the printer faded, replaced by the soft click of the last seal being embossed. In less than 24 hours, they had secured a controlling interest in Willowbrook Mall, transforming it from a faceless retail complex into a canvas for community renewal. A young associate handed her a tablet displaying updated ownership charts. The Collins Trust now held 52% of outstanding shares. She tapped the screen, heart swelling at the decisive shift. The overnight purchase had been seamless, hidden behind veils of shell entities and confidentiality agreements. Even stakeholders who'd been wary at dawn had come to see the vision by dusk. Alexander slipped an arm around her shoulders. We did it, he whispered, pride and relief mingling in his tone. She leaned into him, smiling. Tomorrow, we unveil a new chapter. They exited into the quiet corridor, their footsteps echoing on the polished floor. The mall's tenants, unaware of the leadership change above them, prepared for another day of commerce. Yet by dawn, everything would be different. As they walked through the vacant corridors, she pictured the spaces coming alive. Workshops replacing idle storefronts, pop-up galleries lined along the atrium, children's laughter echoing beneath skylights. She paused before a closed jewelry kiosk. Opulence jewelers had yet to arrive for their appointment. The thought stirred a thrill. The world's most exclusive boutique nestled within a mall reborn for inclusivity. In a security office, cameras captured their passage. A guard, reviewing late-night footage, caught sight of them on the monitors. He gave a nod of respect as she passed, unaware that those images marked the dawn of a paradigm shift. Emerging into the pre-dawn chill, they paused at the main entrance. Arrayed before them was the full facade of Willowbrook Mall, its banners and signposts untouched but ripe for new narratives. Alexander glanced at her, eyes bright. Let's get some coffee, he said with a grin. She laughed softly, the sound carrying promise. And then we begin. As the first delivery trucks rumbled in and lights flickered on inside, the overnight purchase settled like a secret treasure, one that would soon reveal its true value to every visitor who walked through those doors. Shortly after sunrise, the mall security control room erupted in activity. Monitors glowed with live feeds from every corner of Willowbrook Mall, escalators, entrances, back corridors. Guards in crisp uniforms clustered around the central console, murmuring as alerts pinged across the system. A newly implemented access protocol, part of last night's operational overhaul, had flagged multiple door sensors left ajar. The head of security, Lieutenant Reyes, barked orders into his radio. Team Delta, check the north maintenance exit. Team Echo, sweep the food court service doors. Report status now. He tapped at a touchscreen, isolating each alert point by point. In the surveillance suite, two junior officers swapped anxious glances. "Sir, look at this," one said, pointing to a grainy infrared feed where two figures moved near the loading docks at the mall's rear. The timestamps showed the activity began just before staff shift change. Reyes leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Are those contractors, or—" He traced the feed with a gloved finger. "Zoom in on their badges." The screen sharpened just enough, emblazoned logos, but not any known vendors. He radioed the patrol unit, voice crisp. "Unidentified personnel at Dock B. Approach with caution. Do not engage without backup." Meanwhile, she arrived at the mall's main entrance, her appointment at Opulence Jewelers in minutes, only to find uniformed guards and yellow tape cordoning off a side passage. A security officer nodded politely as she approached. "Ms. Collins, we have a minor security alert. Certain areas are restricted for now." She assessed the scene, guards checking IDs, handheld scanners sweeping packages. "Thank you," she said, annoyance tempered by curiosity. "Please keep me informed." Her calm composure reassured the officer, whose tension eased. Inside, Lieutenant Reyes coordinated via headset. A patrol team found the contractors, two maintenance workers contracted by a cleaning service, caught off guard by the new protocols. Their innocent confusion turned to relief when Reyes reviewed their credentials. "Apologies," he said into the radio. "False alarm." Back at the entrance, the yellow tape came down. She stepped forward, smoothing her skirt, as the guards offered discreet nods of apology. The interruption had been brief, an unintended consequence of the trust's safety measures. She continued toward the jewelry wing, mind already shifting to tomorrow's community launch plans. The security alert was a reminder that true transformation required vigilance as much as vision, ensuring the mall remained a safe haven for all who walked its halls. The bell chimed softly as she stepped through the glass doors of Opulence Jewelers, escorted by a bespoke concierge in charcoal gray. The interior felt different now, less an untouchable shrine and more a space awaiting dialogue. Velvet ropes had been removed, and the staff's posture held curious respect rather than practiced disdain. Daniel, the young salesperson who'd shown her kindness before, approached with a genuine smile. "Welcome back, Mrs. Collins," he said, offering a neatly bound portfolio. Inside were brochures for custom design consultations, a step beyond the rigid appointment form she'd received. "Mr. Thompson asked me to personally oversee your experience today." She nodded appreciatively, noting the absence of Blake's sharp gaze. "Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate your help." She opened the portfolio to a page featuring the Azure Coupe imagery ironically repurposed for bespoke jewelry, and inside, nod to her journey here. Daniel guided her to a private salon room, its walls lined with mirrors and scattered with luminous samples. As she settled into a plush chair, he presented the rose-gold moonstone necklace she'd admired, its soft glow enhanced by a halo of accent diamonds. "We've reserved this piece for you," he explained. He unhooked the glass dome and held the necklace aloft, the chain catching light like strands of starlight. She reached forward, her fingertips brushing the cool metal. "It's beautiful," she whispered, eyes bright. She lifted it gently, draping it around her neck. The weight felt meaningful, not just monetary. Daniel adjusted the clasp, his movements considerate. "It looks stunning on you," he said sincerely. Moments later, the manager appeared, his demeanor transformed. He offered a sincere apology for the earlier treatment and a gift voucher for any future acquisitions. "We value your patronage," he said, voice unguarded, "and we're honored you chose Opulence." His eyes held genuine respect, a bridge long overdue. She accepted the voucher with grace. "Thank you," she replied. "Today's experience feels earned." She caught Daniel's eye as she paid. His nod conveyed shared satisfaction. As she exited into the daylight, she realized the necklace was more than a gift. It was a symbol of changed hearts and open doors. And in that transformation, both she and Opulence had found new brilliance. He lingered in the back room long after she'd left, gaze fixed on the empty display where the moonstone necklace had gleamed. The store manager replayed the morning's events with disbelief. Never had a client of such status, clearly one with the means, chosen to return and engage so thoughtfully, rather than disappear into the anonymity of private appointments. He tapped his pen against his desk, eyes drifting to the staff's post-lunch chatter in the showroom beyond the glass door. Their tone carried cautious excitement. Word had spread of Mrs. Collins's dignified comeback and the genuine warmth Daniel had shown. Colleagues whispered about the manager's own transformation, from gatekeeper to grateful host. For the first time, he felt the weight of his previous arrogance. He rose and crossed to the display case, lifting the velvet liner as if arranging a memorial. The cushion lay empty, but its presence felt potent, a testament to how perceptions could shift with a single act of respect. He pressed his fingertips to the glass, imagining her touch. His stomach tightened at the memory of her calm composure, the subtle firmness in her voice when she reminded him that worth wasn't stitched into labels. The door chimed and Daniel appeared, portfolio in hand, face flushed with renewed confidence. "Mr. Thompson asked me to deliver these," he said, extending folded sheets, staff training materials on customer dignity and inclusive service. "He wants us to discuss them at tomorrow's meeting." The manager accepted the pages, heart pounding. He glanced at the title, Respect and Empathy in Luxury Retail. He flipped through the guidelines, case studies, role-play scenarios, and reminders that every customer deserved full attention. As he read, a slow realization unfurled. This wasn't a reprimand, but an opportunity to rebuild. Daniel hesitated. I think this will make a difference," he said, voice earnest. The manager looked up, eyes meeting the young man's hopeful gaze. He nodded, swallowing pride. "Yes," he replied firmly. "It will." Later, he gathered the staff in the quiet showroom. As he spoke about lessons learned and the path forward, he felt an unfamiliar warmth. Responsibility not just for sales, but for every person who walked through those doors. And in that moment, the manager understood that true luxury lay not in price tags, but in the simple honor of being seen. He found her waiting by the courtyard fountain, morning light glinting off water droplets as they danced in the air. The gentle murmur of trickling water provided a peaceful backdrop. She stood with hands loosely clasped, wearing a light scarf over her shoulders, simple and serene. Taking a hesitant breath, the manager approached. His polished shoes crunched on the gravel path, drawing her attention. She offered a courteous nod, curiosity in her eyes. He paused a respectful distance away, then spoke, voice measured but sincere. "Mrs. Collins, I owe you an apology." She tilted her head, expression open yet reserved. He cleared his throat, gathering his words. "When you first visited Opulence Jewelers, I judged you by your attire rather than your character, and for that, I am truly sorry." His gaze dropped to the fountain before returning to her, unwavering. "You deserved respect and courtesy, and I failed to provide either." A soft breeze stirred her hair as she took in his words. She recognized the vulnerability behind his polished demeanor. Silence stretched, allowing his apology to settle. Finally, she smiled gently, the kind of warmth that signified understanding rather than absolution. "Thank you," she replied. "Your words matter." He exhaled, relief and humility mingling in his posture. "I've instructed our team on new service standards, what Daniel has already shared. It's not enough to change policy. I want to change hearts." He offered a small envelope, a token of goodwill from Opulence, for you to use however you see fit. She accepted it, fingers brushing his. Inside was a handwritten card. "To Mrs. Collins, with respect and gratitude." Beneath it, a voucher covering not just jewelry, but complimentary access to private workshops, an invitation to shape future collections alongside the artisans. Her eyes flicked from the card to him, then back to the fountain's cascade. "That means a great deal," she said softly. "Not because of its value, but because it represents real change." He nodded, sincerity etched on his face. "I hope it's the first of many steps toward doing better." She folded the card and slipped it into her bag. "It is," she assured him, voice steady. "Thank you for seeing me." Early sunlight streamed through the glass atrium as guests gathered around a scarlet ribbon stretched between two gleaming pillars. Local dignitaries, community leaders, and mall tenants mingled with families from the Collins Foundation, their laughter weaving between the towering palm trees. A sense of anticipation hummed in the air. Today marked the first public celebration of Willowbrook Commons transformation. She stood at the center, wearing a simple yet elegant teal dress that mirrored her belief in substance over show. Alexander joined her, his hand finding hers for reassurance. A black podium bearing the mall's new emblem, an interlocking C and W, stood ready, microphones reflecting a sea of cameras and smartphones. The mayor stepped forward, offering a warm introduction. He spoke of community revitalization, applauding the Collinses for their visionary leadership. Applause rose like a wave, gentle yet genuine. As he handed her a pair of gold-handled scissors, she felt the culmination of months of planning pulse through her veins. She raised the scissors, meeting the crowd's eyes with a steady smile. "This ribbon represents more than an opening," she began. "It symbolizes respect, opportunity, and a belief that every space can foster connection." Her voice carried clearly beneath the soaring glass ceiling. At her signal, Alexander joined her in cutting the ribbon with a single, graceful snip. The scissors blades met with a crisp snap, and the ribbon fell away like a barrier, lifting from the mall itself. A burst of confetti rained down, vibrant hues dancing in the morning light. As doors swung open, visitors flowed in, greeted by pop-up artisan booths, interactive art installations created by local students, and a corner dedicated to adaptive play equipment designed by the foundation. Laughter and conversation filled the corridors once reserved for commerce alone. Daniel, now promoted, guided a young girl through a jewelry-making demo, his encouragement echoing the kindness he first showed her. The store manager watched from Opulence Jewelers' widened entrance. Pride and humility softened on his face. She and Alexander walked hand in hand, stepping into a gallery space where children sketched designs under soft spotlights. She knelt beside a boy with a cast, helping him shape a clay pendant. His eyes lit up at her attention, and she felt the true weight of the moment. Surrounded by community and purpose, the ribbon cutting was more than a ceremony. It was a promise fulfilled. And as Willowbrook Commons came alive, she knew the real celebration had only just begun. Each storefront along the renovated wing showcased more than merchandise. It presented a story of collaboration and compassion. At Opulence Jewelers, ring cases glowed with pieces designed in tandem with Foundation kids, their sketches immortalized in gold and gemstones. A small placard told the tale, created by young artists, inspired by hope. Visitors paused, reading and admiring, connecting value with vision. In another window, a collection of silk scarves bore prints drawn by emerging designers from local art schools, each pattern reflecting community heritage. The boutique's manager stood proudly beside a display of limited editions, explaining to curious shoppers that proceeds would fund scholarships. Nearby, a shoe atelier exhibited adaptive footwear prototypes co-created with mobility specialists, its soles designed for comfort and style. Across the corridor, Café Verde featured a heartblend coffee roaster, roasted beans from women-owned farms, and each bag carried a story card about the growers. A staff member offered samples, urging customers to consider the journey behind every cup. In the food court, the smoothie bar she'd once noted now hosted weekly wellness workshops, its display case stocked with informative brochures and colorful fruit infusions certified fresh and kind. A pop-up maker's corner filled a former kiosk. 3D, printed jewelry, ceramics, and leather goods crafted by program alumni. Tags listed both creator names and brief biographies, celebrating their achievements. She paused by a delicate pendant stamped with the Foundation's logo, remembering the boy whose clay designs first inspired her and Alexander to envision this fusion of commerce and care. Even the electronics store displayed refurbished tablets preloaded with educational apps, a partnership with a nonprofit that taught coding to underprivileged youth. Shoppers lingered, surprised by these purposeful offerings amid the usual rows of gadgets. She walked through, flanked by Alexander and Daniel, soaking in the hum of appreciation. A mother approached, cradling a silk scarf, tears in her eyes as she read its origin. "This means so much," she whispered. "We're part of something bigger." At the center kiosk, she arranged a new showcase, a rotating feature highlighting a different foundation initiative each month. Today's exhibit celebrated wheelchair design advancements, complete with miniature models and testimonials. Stepping back, she surveyed the transformed concourse. Every display case a gift not merely of product, but of promise. In the jeweled glint and printed fabric, she saw the true measure of wealth: shared opportunity, creativity unleashed, and respect woven through every transaction. Here, opulence had found its greatest expression in giving. He paused before the large digital mural in the central atrium, where quotes about dignity and empathy rotated amid images of the mall's transformation. The words, "Everyone deserves to be seen," glowed beside a photograph of Maggie guiding a child's hand at a jewelry bench. Around him, shoppers and staff moved with a newfound courtesy. Doors held open, smiles exchanged, conversations grounded in genuine interest. The former store manager, now a mentor to his team, approached. "I wanted to thank you," he said quietly, nodding toward the mural. "This," he gestured, "reminds us why we're here." His tone carried humility born of hard lessons. She smiled, reflecting on how a single interaction had rippled outward to reshape attitudes. "Respect isn't a policy," she replied softly. "It's a choice we make each time we see someone as a person, not a profile." He nodded, absorbing her words. "I passed that message on today," he said, "to every new hire, every vendor we spoke with. It's changed the way we train and the way we listen." Nearby, Daniel guided a small group of interns through a customer service role play, emphasizing active listening and personal connection. He caught her eye and offered a thumbs up, a silent celebration of progress. She turned back to the manager. "The real work begins now," she said, "maintaining this culture, making sure it's more than a launch day gesture." He met her gaze, resolve shining in his eyes. "We will," he promised, "because we've seen the difference it makes." Above them, the glass ceiling framed drifting clouds and sunlight, a reminder that openness and clarity were central to their mission. Below, the bustle of commerce harmonized with the cadence of community. A child's laughter from the maker corner, the clink of glass cases revealing handcrafted pieces, the low hum of conversations turned personal. As she walked through a nearby boutique that displayed children's sketches alongside fine jewelry, a young customer asked about the story behind the designs. The boutique owner paused her greeting to share the origin of each motif, explaining how every gem reflected hope and every setting honored creativity. The interaction was natural, heartfelt. She lingered a moment, witnessing how respect had become the mall's guiding principle. In each thoughtful exchange, in every intentional display, a lesson resonated louder than any marketing slogan. That true luxury lay not in exclusivity, but in the simple act of valuing another human being. And in that lesson, Willowbrook Commons had found its greatest worth. Morning briefing felt different now. Instead of sales targets, the staff gathered around a circle of chairs beneath the skylight, coffee cups in hand, ready for updates on community events and guest feedback. The store manager, once the enforcer of exclusivity, stood at the front, his demeanor open and collaborative. He began by reading a note from a customer who'd purchased a bespoke pendant designed by foundation students. The customer wrote of its sentimental value and the joy of supporting young artists. "That's the kind of impact we're making," he said, voice warm. "Thank you all for your part in it." A ripple of smiles passed through the team. The young interns who'd once treated discounts as authority now listened eagerly as Daniel shared strategies for personalized greetings and active listening. He led a short exercise. Partners practiced greeting each other by name and asking about their day. Laughter broke out as participants fumbled warmly through introductions. Next, The manager invited two children from the foundation to present their designs. They stepped forward, shy but proud, voices clear as they described the inspiration behind their sketches. Family memories, dreams of travel, hopes for inclusivity. Each design would be featured in the next opulence collection. Applause filled the room, hands clapping not for profits, but for potential. The team broke into small groups to brainstorm how to integrate these stories into displays and social media. Ideas flew. Artist meet and greets, live sketch demonstrations in the store window, and interactive digital screens where shoppers could vote on upcoming designs. The energy was tangible, innovation fueled by empathy rather than quarterly goals. A floor supervisor shared feedback from colleagues in other wings of the mall, noting how neighboring stores had adopted similar practices, pop-up craft tables and communal seating. "We're setting a precedent," she said, eyes bright with pride. "This place is changing for the better." As the meeting wrapped, the manager closed with a reminder: every interaction matters. Remember that behind every price tag is a person with a story. Let's keep honoring those stories. The staff rose, energized and unified. She watched from the doorway, heart full. The staff's transformation, from gatekeepers to guardians of dignity, had been the most profound change of all. In their hands, the mall's promise of respect and opportunity lived on, ensuring that every guest felt welcomed, valued, and seen. He paused outside the foundation's pop-up gallery, where framed portraits of participating children lined the walls. Each image captured a moment of creative triumph. A girl beaming beside her first handcrafted necklace, a boy proudly holding the prototype of his adaptive shoe. She joined him there, and when their eyes met, a quiet understanding passed between them. He took her hand, guiding her through the exhibit. "Look at this one," he said softly, pointing to a watercolor sketch that had inspired a limited edition scarf. "Your vision made this possible." Her chest swelled with emotion as she studied the delicate brushstrokes. He continued, voice gentle. "I've watched you transform every space you touch. Shopping centers, boardrooms, storefronts. But more than that, you've transformed hearts." His thumb traced the frame's edge. "You taught me that respect and empathy are the greatest luxuries." She turned to him, eyes bright with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without your support," she replied. "You believed in the power of possibility." Together, they paused before a display of clay pendants shaped by children with limited mobility, each piece a testament to resilience. He reached into his jacket pocket, producing a small velvet box. Her breath caught as he opened it to reveal a simple ring, set with a single moonstone that shimmered like a promise. "You deserve this," he said, slipping it onto her finger, "for all you've done and all you continue to do." Tears glistened in her eyes as she closed the box gently. "It's beautiful," she whispered, voice thick with emotion. The moonstone's soft glow echoed the hope embedded in every project they'd undertaken. He lifted her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. "It's only the beginning," he said, meeting her gaze with unwavering love. "Together, we'll keep creating beauty in unexpected places." Surrounded by stories of triumph and creativity, their silent acknowledgement spoke volumes. In that shared moment, the gallery's walls seemed to pulse with possibility, affirming that their greatest accomplishment was not in acquisitions or design, but in the love and respect they reflected into the world. A hush fell over the grand ballroom as she stepped to the lectern, evening light filtering through crystal chandeliers. Rows of guests, local business owners, foundation supporters, and mall leadership turned their attention to her. In this moment, she wasn't a shopper or a strategist, but a storyteller conveying a deeper truth. Clearing her throat, she spoke simply. "Tonight isn't about luxury sales or record profits." Her gaze swept the room. "It's about the lives we've touched and the potential we've unlocked." Behind her, a large projection displayed images of children's workshops, artisan showcases, and community gatherings that had filled Willowbrook Commons corridors. She paused, letting the images speak. Then she shared a story, how a young boy with limited mobility had designed a pendant that became part of Opulence's best-selling collection, and how that sale funded his adaptive equipment. Applause rippled through the audience, faces lit with recognition of transformation beyond transactions. She continued, voice steady. "We set out to buy them all, but we gained so much more. We inherited dreams, creativity, and resilience." She spoke of local artists whose confidence soared after seeing their work in storefronts, of families who discovered inclusive play spaces, and of staff members whose empathy had become their greatest selling point. As she spoke, Alexander joined her at the podium, slipping an arm around her shoulders. He added quietly, "True wealth isn't measured in carrots or cash flow. It's measured in community, compassion, and the courage to see value where others might overlook it." A spotlight illuminated the couple, who stood together as partners in purpose. The audience rose to their feet, offering a standing ovation that reverberated through the ornate room. She felt Alexander's hand squeeze hers, grounding her in shared accomplishment. Later, as guests mingled among stations showcasing impact metrics beside product displays, she reflected on the journey. From a dismissive glance in a jewelry store to an entire mall reborn for inclusivity, the path had revealed that beyond material wealth lay a richer currency: human dignity and connection. In that ballroom, amidst crystal and conversation, the true measure of success shone brightest, not in statements of net worth, but in the lasting resonance of respect and shared possibility. Years later, Willowbrook Commons still greeted visitors with the hum of community life. Families strolled beneath the skylights where artisan stalls and inclusive play areas coexisted seamlessly. Opulence Jewelers remained a centerpiece, its windows now curated by student designers whose creations told stories of perseverance and hope. She often returned to the mall, not as a customer, but as a mentor guiding young creatives through design workshops in the gallery space. Her moonstone ring caught the light as she knelt beside a teenager sketching a necklace inspired by her grandmother. Their conversation about technique, inspiration, and purpose felt as natural as shared laughter. Alexander, now overseeing sustainable expansions across multiple communities, joined her for regular strolls through the concourse. They paused at Café Verde, sipping heartblend lattes made from beans women had cultivated on fair trade farms. Around them, baristas greeted each customer by name, and community notice boards announced upcoming events: wheelchair basketball tournaments, poetry slams, and coding hackathons for underserved youth. Staff who once measured success by sales figures now championed impact metrics: number of participants served, funds raised for local schools, and collaborations with nonprofits. The former store manager, promoted to regional director, led a panel on empathetic leadership at an industry conference, crediting her example for reshaping corporate culture. In quiet moments, she reflected on how a single day in a jewelry store had cascaded into this vibrant ecosystem. Dignity had unlocked opportunity. Respect had forged connections that outlasted any transaction. She fingered the pendant she'd chosen for her sister that first morning. The rose-gold moonstone necklace, now a cherished heirloom passed down with its story of standing tall. As dusk warmed the glass walls, she and Alexander walked toward the central mural, now an evolving digital tapestry of community milestones. Children ran past, laughter echoing among the pillars. She squeezed his hand, the same, yet infinitely richer. They paused beneath the sculpture of interwoven hands, a symbol of unity commissioned for the mall's anniversary. He turned to her, eyes reflecting both pride and humility. "We did more than build a community center," she said. "We built a legacy of grace and grandeur together." He nodded, and as the evening lights glimmered overhead, they stepped forward, partners still, purpose unchanged, into a future where every act of kindness and respect continued to redefine true wealth.